Hello everyone, today we're going to speak about Cyprus and offshores and all of that with one of Ukraine's top legal experts in the matter, Maxim Lavrinovich. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
And so to start off, maybe let's start with what is the situation in Cyprus now? Is it still a good place to keep your money? Would you recommend it for your clients?
Good joke.
Okay. So what is the best place to go now?
Well, let's go back to Cyprus, and then we will see that there is no place where to go now, which gives you 100% protection. Starting from Cyprus, this is the European Union, but nevertheless, European Union with the European banks, and these European banks are not considered to be European inside the European Union, because, for example, right now I can show you dozens of examples for our clients, for different persons, individuals who cannot transfer their money from European Union bank located in Cyprus to other banks, somewhere in Switzerland, in France, in Austria, in Italy, anywhere. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I know that there's been some debate that saying that when you have capital controls and you can't really transfer money from one part of the Eurozone to another, you essentially no longer have a single euro. So is there a lot of Ukrainian investors still stuck with the? Is this a problem for the?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of investors coming to our office, to Cyprus-based offices or the law firms, looking for help. Well, right now it's really difficult to help those who stuck with Bank of Cyprus, with Laiki Bank, because they have already made the first step, the first haircut, and already 37.5% of money already lost. They say it is transferred, converted in shares. However, on the accounts of our clients we see that money lost, but shares not appeared. Maybe this will happen sometime in the future, but anyway, we don't think that these shares would even have the approximate value which would be equal to the value of money they've lost.
So basically, the compensation, that was a rotten deal for anyone who had money there. But I'd like to ask you about one thing, because we've seen in the first quarter of the year, according to a recent Kommersant article, for the first time Cyprus, which up to now accounted for almost a third of foreign direct investments in Ukraine, is no longer the number one, because so much money has gone out of the financial sector. But it's been eclipsed by the British Virgin Islands. So I'd like to ask you, what is their advantage? But first, I'd like to ask you one other thing. We saw that a lot of the money from Cyprus in the first quarter was moved into real estate, into construction, into trade, basically trade operations. Was that a kind of quick way of getting the money out of Cyprus that we saw before the?
Well, let's start from who is number one. Why not Cyprus? It's not because Cyprus is no more reliable, or because the Cyprus is more reliable than BVI. No, this is just because of the restrictions made by the EU bank for the Bank of Cyprus, for all of the banks located in Cyprus, and the Central Bank on Cyprus restrictions. The restrictions that does not allow any money to come out of Cyprus to Ukraine, to any other jurisdiction. That's why we don't see money from Cyprus in that big volume as we used to see before. This is the only answer to that question, the only. And money looking for different ways. Those who was smart to have money outside Cyprus banks, they may be using BVIs, but this is not the BVI banks, because just for general understanding, doesn't matter the company registered in Belize, BVI, Seychelles, Panama, any other country. Usually, in most cases, they were using the banks located on Cyprus.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that money coming from Cyprus bank, are coming from Cyprus as a jurisdiction. But when you're telling about the investor, of course, we see the jurisdiction of investment. And it means that the Cyprus jurisdiction, Cyprus companies registered on the island, they of course probably in 99% were using local Cyprus banks because it's easy and more convenient. But since the restriction, they were implemented on 20th probably of March, took place, Cyprus is no more the investor, the general investor to Ukrainian economy.
But that's a very interesting distinction. So actually what we're seeing is that you have two things, where the company is incorporated, where it's registered,
exactly,
and then which banks it uses. So when we see this large rise of BVI investments, we're seeing that people registered there are in, if I understood correctly.
This is the location of their company's jurisdiction.
But they're using banks that could be
Of course, because the banks in Cyprus still, for the last 3 months, people have no possibility to use their money. Even when money located not in Bank of Cyprus, not in Laiki Bank, other banks, European banks, other banks, they still facing the restrictions, and 100,000 euros, this is the highest amount that any company may be using to take it out from the Cyprus bank.
Okay.
It's really difficult.
That's very little for
it's very little, and we don't know how long this restriction would take place. Of course, those smart who were keeping money not in the Bank of Cyprus and Laiki, they probably will have the possibility to use their money located in other banks. But we believe that of course they will try to withdraw their money and find the other bank in other jurisdiction, not the Cyprus anymore, because those facing so many difficulties, those clients with big money, they don't want to have these problems anymore in the future. And Cyprus already showed them that in European Union they can wait, they can face any problems in the future. It's unpredictable.
Okay. Do you think that there's going to be a rise in BVI in that sense? And how does it compare to the old Cyprus, let's say, the one before this whole mess of a bailout was implemented, in terms of the conditions that
well, BVI as a jurisdiction, it's a cheap jurisdiction. It's cheap for incorporation and cheap for annual payments. It's much cheaper than Cyprus. Cyprus registered companies, of course they will continue living, continue existing, and they will be used for some of the operations in Ukraine and with Ukraine, but of course not as much as it was before. Because why paying more for having zero protection? Why paying more for having zero protection for money and for corporate rights? Those examples that we see with manipulation of the corporate rights on Cyprus, it shows that this jurisdiction is no more reliable as to finance and as to corporate.